Education today isn't just about teaching kids math or reading. It's become politicized, weaponized, and it's stripping us of our humanity. The U.S. spent nearly $947 billion on K through 12 public education last year, and a staggering $1.64 trillion across all educational levels. That's 5.6% of our GDP, more than most developed countries. And yet, despite all investment, students, teachers, and parents are struggling. My guests today, Dr. Stacie Herrera and Sandi Herrera, are disrupting the system with their movement HumanizEDU. They're asking the question, what if education actually put humans first? And they're proving that disruption is not only good, it's essential. Today, you'll learn why disruption in education is necessary and why it's a good thing, what it really means to put the human back into schools, how proactive solutions are addressing the student mental health crisis, why brain-wired strengths are shaping the future of learning, and what you as parents can do today to be a part of this solution. Today, we're going to talk about how Stacie and Sandi are birthing a movement of humanizing education, along with their new book, Unpacking Bliss, so that joy, self-trust, and connection are shaping safer and more empowered schools. You've got to be here for this conversation. Let's get it started. Today, I want to highlight our guests, starting with Dr. Stacie Herrera. She's a licensed psychologist, founder, and thought leader reshaping education with strengths-based and neuroscience-driven solutions, and her sister, Sandi Herrera, education innovator and CEO transforming school culture to help both students and teachers thrive. Welcome to the show. Let's get it started. Here we are.
Hi.
Here we are. Hi.
Hi.
From all over the planet.
Yeah.
One from Florida, one from Vegas. What state are you in? Portsmouth?
I'm in Maine.
Maine. I don't know where any of those, I've never been to any of those states, so my brain does not orient.
Well, you
to
need
that
to
at
visit.
all.
That's what I'm hearing is you need to visit.
Yes.
I will be in this beautiful place at least for the rest of this calendar year. You need to make time.
Seed is planted.
Yes.
Stacie and Sandi, I was very intentional with choosing you for this season, for this conversation. And for my listeners, I have interviewed individually Stacie and Sandi. So if you want to get to know them on a deeper level, their money journey, you can go down that rabbit hole. In this episode today, we're talking about how these amazing, brilliant women's worlds have collided professionally. Now they're sisters. So Stacie Herrera, Sandi Herrera are sisters. Cat's out of the bag on that one. And not only are they sisters, but they're best friends. If you follow them on Instagram or any of social media outlets, you'll see them literally traveling the world together. They've written a book together talking about unpacking bliss, as this all relates to their company, which they have brought their worlds together to form HumanizEDU. So what I first want to do is talk about setting the stage of education and what the state of education is today as you see it, both of you. And then we'll talk about why HumanizEDU is so important today, now more than ever. And then we're going to talk about unpacking bliss and how people can learn from you in their own journeys, in particular educators, create more bliss in their lives. Because right now, education it's tough out there.
Can we just call it a hot mess?
It's a hot mess. It's a hot mess.
Yeah.
Sandi, Stacie, you were both together in Minnesota?
We were.
Recently.
Yeah.
And down the street, there was a school shooting.
Yeah.
At a Catholic school. I mean, what the hell is going on?
There were two, actually. We spent a full day with almost 200 educators in another Catholic school network of schools that we're working with this entire year. And it was our first trip to Minnesota, and we had the opportunity to be with all four of the schools as well as their central office team for the entire day. And at the end of that day, there was a shooting across the street from one of the schools that they actually feed into. And then the following morning, there was the shooting that was at the school that was about a half mile away from the place we were staying. And we spent that day with the other Minnesota Institute for Trauma-Informed Education coaches that we're working with this entire year. They're doing trauma-informed education for the Ascension Academy schools that we're working with. And so we had that day, that Wednesday, we were all together, holding space, planning forward, what is within our control? How can we make a difference? We're all so committed to proactively solving this mental health crisis that we're facing. And the thing is that the piece that I don't believe is getting enough attention is the mental health crisis of our teachers, our educators, and not just classroom teachers, like educators as a whole, even our support professionals. And it's a ripple of impact that we're not paying attention to in a way where if we don't get proactive with this, we're going to continue having Band-Aid conversations. I mean, we can have conversations about cell phones. We can have conversations about bullying. We can have conversations about suicide prevention, about, guns. We can have all those conversations. They're important. And if we don't also, and more importantly, swim upstream and get proactive with solving our mental health crisis in our schools, as a society, we're not actually growing and healing. And, we just wholeheartedly believe that that's where the focus needs to be, is let's swim upstream and get proactive together.
Get proactive together. You're both individually were on this mission. Professionally, Sandi, you were working with school educators through, remind me of the company name again, because it's been a minute.
Yeah.
Educator Dynamics, that's right. And that's when we met. That's when we met in 2017, 2018. You were getting Educator Dynamics off the ground, nurturing, supporting educators, not just teachers, administrators from the highest levels down to say, we have to create school cultures based on values, based on supportive learning, based on brain-wired strengths. And then on the flip side, Stacie, you were birthing your child psychology career. You had gotten your doctorate. And at some point, the three of us had a conversation and we were like, why don't you just pull it all together? Because you're doing the same work with different people. And this is how HumanizEDU was born.
So we actually had piloted it with one charter school here in Florida. And what we began to recognize is when you address the needs of the adults in the building, it was so much easier to talk about and support the social emotional needs of the children. And so really the conversation between the three of us was a big, why not? And loved your support during that, Lisa, to just be like, it's just a weaving of the teams and a weaving of the money and we've woven it all together. It's been an incredible journey.
And we're only just starting. We really are on a mission to create a movement, right? To create psychologically safe, thriving working and learning environments in our schools. And
doesn't that sound like a no-brainer though? So for parents, for people outside of education, what do you mean that's not in existence? Yeah. What do you mean that doesn't already exist? Wouldn't you assume that happens? But from both of your point of views, the answer is no. Why?
Well, I think the pandemic really highlighted the lack of psychological safety in a number of areas throughout our society. And so we began to look at how do we intentionally create psychological safety. Mm-hmm. And right now we're recognizing the barriers to that, right? Because often we're looking downstream, we're looking at attendance, we're looking at retention, we're looking at graduation rates, and how do we, to Sandi's point, get upstream and really begin to intentionally create environments where all of those things, all of those data sets will rise, will allow us to see that we are making a difference. But as we know in preventative work, it takes a lot of really intentionally passionate people to be like, no, we're doing it this way. We're done catching them, pull them out of the river at the river's bend, right? We're going upstream.
Right. What the very same conversation that you're having as a united front in your book, Unpacking Bliss, with HumanizEDU, with helping educators and cultures work toward educational environments that support kids and people based on their brain-wired strengths. Everything that you're speaking into is in education is what I'm doing with money. Saying no. I just had a guy, he like came at me on LinkedIn because I talked about how money is emotional before it's logical. And he's like, no. Well, Isn't this what we're talking about in education, that it needs to be psychologically safe before anything? But hearing you say swimming upstream, you are literally swimming upstream right now in the world of education.
Not only the world of education, but the world of education that is dismantling and disintegrating before our eyes. And so those kind of pre-programmed ideas of like how money flows for professional development are new. And so trying to find new ways to support this movement is really where we're at right now.
Mm-hmm.
We're so thankful to be partnering with a couple of very forward thinking companies who are like, no, I understand that in order to have my business thrive in the future, I need to backtrack and go to the educational system so that I know that I can have the neurosurgeons of the future, so that I know that I can have the plumbers of the future. How can we do that? Well, we have to have spaces where children are learning. And how do we learn? When we're in a relaxed, supportive environment that is naturally psychologically safe so we can challenge our thinking and try new things.
But that's not how the system was designed.
No. And
That's
the
not how the
system
system
over the years has had so many cooks in the kitchen, so to speak, where it's like, no, we should do it this way. No, we should do it that way. And it's like new thing, implementation, new thing, implementation. And before you know it, the educators are like, no, like this is not. And yet then that's how they're evaluated. And then that's how they're paid. And then that's how. And so then you start to mess with their Maslow's hierarchy and they can't even breathe. And yet, despite all of that, they're showing up for their students. This weekend, I was coaching our culture and wellbeing coach certification cohort, and we've got a second grade teacher in there, and he was talking about how the world outside is so much, and yet he has this one student who was just disruptive a lot, and he, to his credit as an educator, he goes, I just started hanging out closer to him. Wasn't in his space, wasn't trying to, just co-regulating through being close to it. We know all the terms for it. And he said slowly he started wanting to come to school. And he was like, this is fun. I want to come because I want to be in your class. And it's like, yes, just that. Just for teachers to recognize that. And they do. They know it. Yet when so much pressure is put on themselves, they've got this vice grip around their head, they're not free to do what they intuitively know how to do, what they've been trained how to do, which is to help children thrive in all aspects of life so that they can learn. And when we ask teachers, what's the number one thing you would love for your students to walk away with when they leave your school? Nothing has to do with what is 2 + 2 or what is this algebraic equation or what is this whatever. Everything has to do with to be resilient, to know that they love learning, to know that they everything has to do with mindset. Everything has to do with their emotional well-being, with their sense of being psychologically safe as a human being to be their unique weird selves.
It's amazing. It's amazing. It makes so much sense. And we are so far off track. How did we get off track?
Because we're attempting to quantify success in learning. And so we pulled away from the love of learning that we are all hardwired for. Our brains love to learn new things. We know this because we're constantly comparing ourselves to our future vision, right? We're always like, well, what else can I learn? What else can I do? And when it's in alignment with our passion, when it's in alignment with our higher purpose, it just flows and it makes sense. And school has become this very structured, you must learn all of these things and you must be good at all of these things. And when you're not, and when you can't show up with this love of learning for something that just leaves an icky taste in your mouth, like educators know how to bring all of these things to life. But to Sandy's point, the mandates and the you should do it this way, and every classroom should be at this particular page at this particular time, right? Our attempts to make it a factory or use the industrial revolution way of like putting everybody on a conveyor belt and they're just going to walk away with their little diploma and then everybody's going to be prepared to work on the conveyor belt as we move forward. It's not going to benefit the children of the future.
Yeah.
It's not going to benefit us as business owners in the future.
It's not benefiting anybody now. It's not benefiting anybody now. And
Well,
so
there are pockets, Lisa. I don't want to say there aren't. There are pockets, right, of these glimmers of like, oh, this classroom that just revolves around this one teacher, or this little tiny school that like has figured this one thing out. There are so many pockets, but you're right. It's across the board. The numbers are not like, wow.
is it a responsibility question? Is it and I see this a lot with money and people putting this conversation, inserting this conversation into schools. And I'm far removed. My kids are in school right now, but in terms of the conversation we're having right now, I'm out of it in terms of looking at it as like, how do we solve this problem? Is that people are like, well, we need to teach financial education in schools. And I say, hey, hold on a minute. Like, what job is the school really? Because it seems like it's now the school's job to raise the kid, to teach them how to blow their nose, to feed them. Whose job? What is the job of the school now? Or what are you saying? So in this disruptive season, women across the board in the world, we're just disrupting a lot. But what do you believe the job of schools should be?
To ignite the love of learning.
In all aspects,
In
right?
all aspects.
So that we can thrive as humans.
To offer that variety of experiences so that students can choose where their passion is and to find it and to foster it and to fuel it and encourage it. We know there's so much science around play science of learning, and we learn through doing and play and creativity. And if we look at the future of the world, it isn't what it was when the system of education began, and yet we haven't evolved it. And until we actually empower and equip our educators, it's not going to happen. And so what's happening is they're leaving the system of education, and then they're going to help a child at the grocery store instead, because they can't not serve children. And they're going to work at Starbucks. They're going to work at other corporations, and they're going into real estate. They're like, I thought I was meant to be a teacher, but I guess not. And you can see their hearts breaking.
Right. That what they're communicating is that, yes, they love children, and yes, they want to make an impact for children, but they don't love the system of education that they're in.
Exactly.
And that's what you're here to do. You're here to change that. What's the mental health cost of keeping the current system the way it is? What do you see happening real time and in the future if we just keep it the way it is?
We're seeing the increase. The number one cause of death for children is guns. Really?
Yeah.
Come on. Like, I can't, like, yeah. Speaking of radical ownership for we get to do better. We get to do better right now. And we know how.
How? You have the answer. What is the answer? So someone's like, give me the answer. Help me solve the test. What's the answer, you guys?
We actually create psychologically safe containers for people to be their authentic selves. We celebrate what is working. We stop focusing on what isn't working. We stop focusing on, thinking people are broken or no, every human is perfect exactly how they are. And when we start celebrating each other's gifts and we start focusing on what is working, we get more of that. We know that. And yet in the system of education, it's like, this is broken. That's broken. That's broken. That's not good enough. That's not enough. Not enough. And we're breaking out the shame bat so that not only the teachers, but the students are like, I'm not good enough. I'm not good enough. If I'm not good at all 5 classes and I have straight A's, then I'm a bad person. You have 5 classes, you have 4 A's and a D. What do we focus on? We harp on the D. You better get good at that. When who we naturally are as humans is we're good at what we're good at. So why don't we foster and fuel that and your love of learning? And that's your personalized learning journey that you get to discover. And it's just like with money personalities. We're not all the same. We don't all navigate money in the same way. It's not cookie cutter. So why is learning cookie cutter? Why is development cookie? It's not. And yet, for some reason, we feel like we should be forced into making it that. And so if we can just let go and trust in humans, hire well and get out of the way.
Hire well and get out of the way. That's a great segue, Sandi, to the mission of HumanizEDU. Help someone understand the dynamics of HumanizEDU. So first of all, I mean, any listener I would think is like, well, isn't education human? Not well, especially as if we're talking about AI and things coming down the road, it's easy to lose sight of that. And what you're saying is some of the metrics, some of the ways that, in my words, education's been politicized and weaponized and all the things that HumanizEDU came forward to say it's not. And here's the formula. What's the formula?
It's our me, we school model is the formula. Is that when we flip systems like the MTSS triangle, and Stacie can describe that, when we flip it on its head and we focus on the individual first, and we focus on who we show up as, because the culture in any environment, not just in schools, the culture of your home, the culture of your church group, the culture of your business, the culture anywhere is the collective capacity of who everyone shows up as. That's what culture is. There's no culture in an empty building. So if it's a collective capacity of who everyone shows up as, then it has to be about who everyone shows up as. So if we're honoring and celebrating the individuality of who everyone shows up as and their gifts that they bring to the table on their best day, and we create that collective in the we level of this is who we are and this is how we do things here because we've designed it that way, because we've done it on purpose, not because we've always done it that way or because we're supposed to or because we should, because we need to break out the shame bat. No, it's because we designed it that way, because it works for us, because it's aligned to our core values of who we are on our best day, not who we're striving to be, that we get to drop into the present moment and know you're good enough right now. And if you're working out of values alignment, you're speaking through that lens and going, okay, well, you're out of values alignment. Now we can have values conversation, how to get back in alignment with your core values versus a you're a bad person conversation. And we need to worry about discipline. Yes, but through the lens of why it's violating the core value and how do you have those healthy, conscious conversations for adults and students, and that they're all playing by the same rules, not in a way where we're pitting mom against dad, so to speak.
Right. Where does data fall into all of this, Stacie?
The data behind our movement?
Yeah. So there's a lot of data right now. We, in your words, the system of education real time is disintegrating. And there's data to support that when individuals are acknowledged, when talents are acknowledged, when people come together based on values. What kind of data are you seeing that supports that actually this is the answer, this is the solution?
Well, I'd like to start with one data point, and that is that we know over an educator's lifetime, they impact approximately 3,000 students. So if we start with that one educator, we see the ripple of impact. For the schools that have engaged with us, what we've seen is increased teacher retention, which not only helps the overall organization, but it helps each individual child. Why? Because children like to see the continuity, because children like to know that they've had one key person that they've connected with, and you're giving them multiple touch points because you have that same staff. We're seeing increased graduation rates. Why? Because we're creating those environments where you feel a sense of belonging and you want to show up every day and you feel seen, heard, and valued. And when you do, it's so easy to ask for help, to stretch your goals, to really ignite your inner passions. And so we're seeing a lot of great data. If you want to see some really specific numbers, go and check out our website. We are super excited about the impact that we are making. And this year in particular, we are partnering with iWellness. And iWellness has a very awesome tool that surveys all of the students at a tier 1 level and then allows the teachers and the schools to be responsive to the 5 questions that they're checking in on. And so then they begin to recognize, oh, is it an individual student problem? Is it a classroom problem? Is it a school-wide problem? And then we're coming in with that professional development. Because once you assess something, it's important to use that data to then move the needle somewhere.
Right.
So really partnering with other organizations that are like-minded and wrapping around schools as we all figure out what the structure of school looks like in the next 5 years. It's really important that we collaborate and work together around this and become that humanized or the center, knowing that the human is at the center and AI is a tool towards that.
Correct. AI just supports us, facilitates all the things. Yeah. But it doesn't become the the middle, the humans in the middle. And I love what you said about that. Let's shift gears to the book then, because you're doing, I think the words that you used is you're swimming upstream right now, and that has to happen. And at some point, you'll reverse it. When HumanizEDU is successful, it will create a new flow and a new way of being. But right now you're swimming upstream. And ultimately, Sandi, I've heard you talk about this over and over and over again. This is exactly where we align, is that positive people perform, happy people perform. And the answer and the solution to all of this is joy and love of learning. And we've lost that. And especially if you listen to the news, oh my God, right? We've lost that sense of joy and wonder. So Unpacking Bliss was born as a result of your story, but then also saying, hey, educators, people, if you want more success, start with happiness, not more money, not more anything. Let's talk about the book. What does the book mean for you? Why does someone have to read the book?
You want to go, Stace?
It's such an opportunity to sit and reflect and remember those blissful moments make up an entire lifetime. And if you had a chance to intentionally dive in, unpack all of the things that we've packed into our beautiful suitcases over the years and be intentional about what you put back in, that's my hope for a reader of the book, is that they're able to really see, okay, this is what I've collected along the way, and what is serving me now, and weaving in some neuroscience in there and some other really cool tools that Sandi and I have picked up along the way. But it's just an opportunity to do a personal deep dive. And when the world feels so uncertain, you need to create certainty. And how do we do that? We create certainty by being very clear and intentional about what we want, our vision for ourselves, and doing that inner work. Mm-hmm. Now is the time to be reading this book.
Totally agree. Sandi, what do you think?
Yeah.
What do you say?
Unpacking Bliss is and I've heard it in using the word happiness for so long, and having worked with Tony Hsieh and the team at Delivering Happiness. And it's like, oh, that's just the happiness lady, or that's just and they think of it in terms of the rock star style of happiness versus really when we think about the definition of happiness and the definition of joy is well-being. And so then when we bring the word bliss in, and why Stacie and I intentionally chose the word bliss and Unpacking Bliss, the suitcase theory of life, is that bliss is that peace, right? It's that, that. It's not rock star. It's not jumping around as a cheerleader. Those things are cool too. Please do those things. That's awesome. But bliss is when you find just that deep centered peace of, this is what life's about. And we all have so many of those moments that happen. And when we can collect those in our suitcase, how much lighter it is versus collecting all of the shoulds and the woulds and the not enoughs. And so the opportunity to really just take our story to give you a little bit of fun and anecdotal adventure along the way, but to even look at the key nuggets and the theme of the book is to notice, get curious, and take aligned action at the end of the day. Really grow your self-awareness, grow your self-advocacy through your self-regulation, and understanding that piece is really important. And it's been a game changer for me personally. And I know for Stacie as well in our own evolutionary journey, that none of us were born this way. We're evolving as a human species. And so we get to hold each other's hands and shine the flashlight backwards when we learn things we get to share. And it's how we really grow in community. And I think that's really important and vital as we grow forward as a human race alongside of AI, because it's not going anywhere. That we elevate our consciousness and we take our power back as humans, not as task people. We get to be humans, and we get to connect and collaborate and support one another and celebrate one another along the way. And it's really what this book is about.
It's beautiful. What I'm hearing you say over and over and over again is that the pathway forward is connection, self-discovery, curiosity, and play. And somewhere along the way, the world of education lost that. And I think that that's a message that we can take into corporate America. And I know, Sandi, you've done that. And Stacie, you're doing that into the households and igniting children's love of learning, helping them heal. And we even had a conversation at dinner on Friday night where you looked at me and you said, this is what healing generational wounds and patterns and traumas looks like and feels like, is that we can return to joy and love for the sake of joy and love.
We don't need a reason. We just get to be happy.
I worked in higher education before I was on the money journey. And one of the things that I regret the most, I didn't know what I didn't know, and I forgive myself for it. But I remember walking into high schools telling kids that if they got a certain degree, they would make a certain amount of money. And I literally, as a 23-year-old kid, went into high schools and sold education based on that metric, that if you get this degree, you'll make this amount of money. And the thing that I regret the most about that is this conversation saying that no, you choose education because you love to learn. And working with a private liberal arts school, and the Honors College was structured like a private liberal arts school, I'll never forget Dr. Starkweather telling me, Lisa, the love of learning is the only reason that we're here. And when we, and I bring curiosity into money a lot, when we have the courage to be curious, when we have the courage to look within, when we have the courage to create cultures filled with love and not just performance, we create worlds, internal realities for students and for teachers and administrators where you show up to a place every day because you love to be there for no other reason. That's safety. That's safety. That's choice. That's a world that works. And so really at the end of the day, what HumanizEDU is set out to do is to create a world that works.
Yes. Order out of chaos.
And really give humans their power back, right? Just that sense of, where is your power? And to be able to understand how much is outside of our control, but what is within our control, and how do we operate from our position of strength? What does that look like in a healthy way in order to really create the lives that we love?
Where do parents fit into this equation? I know you're both parents to amazing children.
Unpacking Bliss and a lot of the stories in there for us is our parenting journey, right? And our bumps and bruises along the way. And parents are vital. It's to be your child's champion and advocate and accountability buddy sometimes, because you also get to be partners with their teachers in all facets of their life. And understanding, Stacie always says, it takes a village.
Yeah, Stacie, where do you see the parents' role fitting in here?
Well, I think it's really important to remember that we as parents are building this social network for our children. And the first question, I think, needs to shift when we go to the pediatrician, when we go to a therapist, and it needs to be, okay, who is your child connected to? Where are the trusted adults in their lives? Because it's that social network that will get us through any extreme trauma, chaos, disruption in their lives. And so it's time we as parents recognize that we are the ones building the village around our children's lives. It is no longer embedded or just kind of a given any longer, right? We're moving and shifting and have more of a global mindset. And so we need to be more intentional around who that is. Because I know as a parent, when things became heavy and I couldn't hold what my child was navigating alone, it was important for me to call my siblings, direct aunt connection, right? It was important for me to call colleagues like Lisa Chastain and say, okay, they're having a money struggle. Who else can I connect them with so that they can figure out their best path? And I know that they're getting the appropriate wisdom around this.
Mm-hmm.
And we actually, through HumanizEDU, will ensure that the parents have a voice in those collective core values of the school. Because again, it's all about creating that sense of belonging. And there's no belonging without everyone and every stakeholder invested.
Yep. Agreed. 1,000%.
And that we can't address the youth mental health crisis without looking at the stakeholders in youth's lives.
That's right.
Parental burnout is at an all-time high. Teacher burnout, all-time high. We have children looking around going, adulthood does not look good.
Yeah.
I'm going
Yeah.
to opt out. You all are telling me to do it this way because that's going to get me to adulthood.
No,
No,
thank you.
thanks. I'm gonna go do something that's going to flood my brain with dopamine. But we'll have another conversation around technology.
We'll be back on that. We'll come back around to that. You can't. Ultimately, what I'm hearing you both say is that it takes everyone,
Yes.
and that responsibility is everyone's, and that the least helpful thing that we can be doing, my opinion, is putting anybody, for my kids, sending them to school, saying it's the school's responsibility and not my responsibility. My sister's an educator. I feel like that's one of the conversations that's hurting us the most. Is that then in effect no one takes responsibility, and we can't afford that right now. So that the real disruption right now is back to personal responsibility, and that everyone's on the same team for the sake of our children,
Yes.
for the sake of our future.
Yes.
It is that important.
Yes.
It is that important, which is exactly why you're on the show today, because we can't just talk about money without talking about the human. We can't just talk about education without talking about the human. And the two of you are on a mission, like you said, Sandi. And this is a mission born from your own pain and struggles and worries as parents, and now professionally seeing this happen in schools and with administrators. And we're saying there has to be a fix, but the fix is not more of the same.
No.
There has to be a new way, and you have the way. You have the way. Love, compassion, kindness, values alignment, brain wired strength, all the things. And if you're listening to this today and going, "Oh my God," please trust me when I tell you that Sandi and Stacie know what they're doing. And if you're looking for a solution when it comes to education, we have to, in all areas of our life right now, we have to look at what's working, and this is working. And we have to be willing to join the conversation and jump in where we can. So, Sandi, Stacie, where can people find you? Where can people join the movement?
They can follow at HumanizEDU in all the places. Our Stacie's youngest daughter is in charge of all of our social media and branding, and she's even got us on TikTok, which is a whole thing. Apparently, we're trying to go viral on TikTok. So if you're a TikTok fan, go there.
Help them go viral.
Help us go viral. My TEDx talk is out as well. How the system is breaking teachers. Our book, Unpacking Bliss. You can follow us on social at the Hererra sisters as well. We're in all the places. You can go to HumanizEDU.com and get the links to everything.
No, you
But
just
even
need.
if you have ideas about how you envision education, even if you want to somehow give back and you don't know how to become invested, just reach out. We at our core are collaborators because we believe that this issue is too large for any one organization, any one person to navigate through. And so we're looking to connect, and we look forward to anyone who reaches out.
Please reach out. Sandi, Stacie, what do you want your kids to be able to say about their kids' futures?
That's a good question.
It is, because they're like 20 somethings now. And so they're
I
just
know.
finally at that cusp of like, I'm never going to have kids. And well, maybe when I turn 30, I think.
Yeah.
So I would love for them to know that there are educational options that allow for personalized learning that will ignite their child's inner genius in an environment that values community, the love of learning, and love.
And love. Sandi, how about you?
I want them to know that they have nothing to prove, that they get to trust people, they get to follow their heart, they get to focus on relationships, and they get to cultivate a life that they love on purpose, aligned to the unique little humans that they are.
I love that. Thank you both for being here. Thank you for both being guiding lights. Wrapping up today's conversation, it proves that disruption isn't dangerous. It's absolutely necessary. And these are two women who are in the thick of it right now in the world of education. With nearly $1.6 trillion spent on education every year, we cannot afford to keep funding systems that aren't serving our kids. We need to fund solutions that bring humanity, joy, and strength back into schools. To learn more about Stacie and Sandi's work, visit HumanizEDU.com. And remember, real change doesn't start with policy, it starts with people. Together, we will disrupt the system for good. Thank you for listening to Real Money with Lisa Chastain. Follow the show wherever you get your podcasts and share this episode with someone who cares about the future of education. And we'll see you next time. Thank you, Dr. Herrera and Sandi.
Thank you.